highlights and develop the form a little bit more. I'm going backwards and forwards in the painting, and I'll switch and do some darks, and then I'll come back and do a bit more light. So it's a good idea to maintain that flexibility so that you're working from one to the other, and it's the same thing, it's always working around the painting. That way you're not locked into anything too tightly. I'm just looking at the top of the nose there, and the little highlight popping on the top, and my dog's sitting here next to me now. He's huffing and puffing. He's just had his lunch. Just gave me a nudge that he wanted to be fed. He's happy now, and he'll leave me alone for a bit. I love these big noses on dogs. It's just so irresistible. You feel like you want to give them a bit of a squeeze. Not that you would, but they're just very tempting sometimes. I'm just looking at the inner side of the nostril there, and I'm just going to see. I'm using the brush. The brush has got a lot of paint on it, so that means that I can touch very, very lightly. I don't need to have any pressure. And where you've got a cavity like the nostril, the light will always pick up just near one of the edges. It comes from the direction the light's coming from. And you'll notice I'm just giving a little touch with my fingertip there, and probably making a bit of a mess of it, but I'm flattening the colour down. Now I'm wiping paint away, so there's another thing to think of. You put paint on there, you can wipe part of it away to leave a shape. See, I'm pushing the paint, pushing it up to where I want it to go. That's the beauty of oil paint. Because it dries so slowly, you can push it around on the surface. Just because you put the paint on doesn't mean to stay. It has to stay that way. That contradicts a little bit of what I said earlier about not playing with it, but experience will teach you that you can manipulate paint. I'd say rather manipulate rather than play with, so that you can push it into the shape that you want, or the form that you want. See, now I'm just touching very lightly with the side corner of the brush, which is the sharp edge, and just touching it very lightly. I always like to generally paint, except for scumbling, with my brush well filled, and that way I don't have to use a lot of pressure. I can put the paint on very lightly and gently and allow it to do its own thing a little bit. I'm just finishing off that little bit on the bridge there, on the top of the back of the nose, coming down the sides there. Now I'm putting my palette up in front of you now so that you can watch me mix the colour, and you can see that I've got white, and I've got a violet up there too at the top. Now I'm taking the painting knife, and you'll notice that I picked the paint up on the underneath part of the knife. This is the ultramarine blue. Pop that in the middle of the, I will pop it in the middle of the palette in a moment. And first of all, that's the burnt umber, that's the brown. I'll pop that, put that on there. I'm flattening it down so that it makes it easier to mix rather than a big blob. Spreading it around a little bit. I take some blue and I put that in with the brown, and this will give me a very deep dark. So it's burnt umber and ultramarine blue combined together. This will give me an extreme dark. It's not black, but it's a colour that's, well, it's a combination of colours, and it'll give me a colour that I find is friendly, more friendly than black. Now that's phthalo blue, and it's quite a strong blue. It's very rich blue, so you don't need a lot of it. Ultramarine blue has a different quality. It hasn't got as much power, tinting power, as the phthalo blue has. I'll take a bit more ultramarine blue and mix that in. What I'm doing, because I'm adding so much blue, the reason for that is because the burr number is so strong. What I'm trying to do is create a cool dark. I said earlier about how you change the balance of colours when you're mixing them, and the burr number in this case is a very reddish colour, has a reddish quality about it, and to counter that I'm adding extra blue. So that's what I've got at the moment, and but it's an extreme dark. It looks a little bit like black, but as I said, it's not. It's got the qualities of both the colours in it, and it won't kill the other colours like black will. Black tends to grey colours down. Now I've taken the palette out of the way now, and I've picked up that colour I've mixed, and I'll use the fan brush. I'm going to introduce some dark, and this will be for the eye area, and you can see that the brush is well loaded, so I don't have to press very hard. It's just a gentle touch. I'm moving the brush sideways. You see how I'm pushing the brush on the surface and not actually stroking with it? So I'm just pushing the paint onto the surface rather than trying to brush it, so that the reason for that is that I can put a shape there rather than try and brush a shape, because the fan brush won't give you that kind of technique. You need a small brush for that. You say, well, why don't you use a small brush? Because I don't want to. I want to put the paint on and have that still coarse look to the shapes I'm putting on. So I'm basically staying with the same types of brushes. I'm using bristles, and I don't want to switch to a stable brush at this stage. And you can see I've got a lot of control over it. I can just push the paint on, and by just varying the pressure I can either put a small shape on, as I've done with the side of the eye, or I can push a little harder in the middle part of the eye and establish the larger shape. I'm coming down the other side there, outside the eye, to put a little bit more dark there, and you can see that I'm establishing form. I'll bring in some little shadow underneath the eye there and into that lower part of that light fur colour, and shading that a little bit too. So I've switched from light to dark, and I'll switch back again, but I'm working my way around the painting. As I've said, it's just it's a pleasure to do it this way, and you can be as whimsical as you like. You can be as free. You can chop and change whenever you want to. I like, after a while, you paint by intuition, and you paint because of your experience, and you paint by emotion. You start to feel your way through a painting, and you make your decisions based on that. It comes with experience, I guess, and that's how I paint. I just paint by feel. I mean, there is a structure there, of course, but I chop and change when I feel like doing it. I'll move from one part to the other. I'm not locked in other words, to just one particular spot or one area. I don't finish one bit off before I move on to another. I'll do a bit here, a bit there, and move around the painting. And the painting definitely benefits from that, in my opinion, from that approach. Now I'm going to start putting some shadow down the bottom. I'm darkening some of the lower areas to strengthen them with that colour I mixed up, where the head's laying on the surface. You see how I'm just sliding the brush under there and putting a little shadow under there, and it's also strengthening the edges. I'm putting hard edges against the bottom there, hard lines, and I'll probably firm up the nose a little bit there. It's evolving very